Hello everybody. Today we'll discuss physiology of action potential. As per the NMC competency PY 1.8, competency is describe and discuss molecular basis of action potential in excitable tissues. As we discussed in previous lecture of resting membrane potential, grossly we are dividing whole body cells into categories: excitable cells that displays a basic potential at the rest, that is resting membrane potential, and they are capable of generating an action potential. They are called as excitable cell, and the cells which are not showing any potential across cell membrane, they are called as non-excitable cell. Now what is meant by action potential? It is basically sudden and rapid changes in membrane potential that spreads rapidly along the nerve fiber membrane, or you can say any excitable cell. So these two things are important in this. It is basically sudden, immediately after the stimulus, and it is a rapid response. So these two are key in the action potential. Whenever any stimulus is given to an excitable cell, there is change in polarity due to movement of ions across cell membrane. Now these ions can be different in different cells of the body. In case of skeletal muscles and nerve, it is commonly sodium, which leads to change in polarity. In some other it can be calcium, in some other it can be potassium. But this thing is important: rapid sudden change in polarity across cell membrane from the resting state. So it goes up to the positive potential, later it comes down to the negative potential. So this is called as action potential. So if you take a diagram of this is the taken from the neuron. So in the neuron you can see inside is negative here, outside is positive. So when a stimulus is given, so what happens? Immediately there is change in polarity. You can see it is from minus 90 millivolt, it is moving up in this direction, so towards positive, and sometimes overshoots. So it is called as depolarization. Later it again comes back to the resting state, so it is called as a repolarization. So classically action potential has got two components. One ascending part is called as a depolarization, as the polarity changes, and repolarization, polarity is coming back to the resting state, and sometimes it overshoots. So based on this, it has got 6-7 headings to understand. First is the threshold. So we should know what is the threshold of an action potential, what is meant by depolarization, repolarization, hyperpolarization, electropronic potentials, and lastly refractory period. So there are the 6 components of action potential. So let's understand it one after the other one. So in this diagram you can see classically action potential of a nerve is shown in this diagram. This is the action potential of a nerve or any skeletal muscle. Now the first component, the threshold, is the just at the beginning. Normally resting state is, you can see here, it is for nerve it is minus 70 millivolt, and for skeletal muscle it is minus 90 millivolt. So if you are giving a weak stimulus, say suppose of 2 millivolt only, so what will happen? It may go up to 68. So it will not lead to firing. You further increase the current, it comes up to 60. Still it will not lead to depolarization. Now when the potential reaches at minus 50 millivolt, now there is sudden opening of sodium channel and there is rapid influx of sodium inside. So when sodium is coming, it is a positive ion, it will shoot rapidly from minus 55 to 0, and it will go ahead. So this is called as depolarization, but it starts only at a particular potential. So the potential at which rapid shoot up starts is called as a threshold for that particular. And reason for this is there are voltage gated channels across cell membrane. Once that voltage is reached, then only channel gets open. If voltage is not enough, channel will not get open. So first is the threshold. So each and every excitable cell has got a particular threshold at which it will generate action potential. And once there is opening of positive ion inside, as polarity goes up, it is called as a depolarization because of change in polarity. So this ascending limb is depolarization. And once the positive ion starts coming out of the cell, polarity again comes back to the negativity. So this descending limb is called as a repolarization. And sometime the channels remain open for some period of time and it goes below the original resting level. Means it was original resting is minus 70, so it is going up to 75 here. So it is called as hyperpolarization. So these are the 4 steps: threshold level, at which there is a rapid shoot up, opening of fast voltage gated sodium channels, depolarization, repolarization and hyperpolarization. Now here you can see in the red there is the sodium channel which opens at a particular voltage only, and there is rapid influx. And these are the potassium channels which are again opening at a particular potential. So these are the voltage gated channels. So at a particular voltage they will open, and at particular voltage they will close off. So here we have shown the channels. You can see these are the sodium potassium channels. Here you can see at the resting state both channels are closed. Now you can see at the threshold level there is opening of voltage gated sodium channels. So these are the rapid channels, and here you can see potassium channels are open, and if flux start, it is a repolarization, and here you can see the potassium channels are still open. Sodium is totally closed. So because of that, some potentials goes below the minus 70 or original resting state. So it is called as a hyperpolarization. Matching to this are the few stages we will understand later. There is a refractory period. We will understand it later. Refractory period means in this period, obviously, the channels will not get open because their voltage has changed. Channels will open only when this voltage is reached back. So even if you are giving a second stimulus now, the channels will not get open unless until potential is coming down to this stage. Okay. So this period in which you cannot give a second stimulation, it is called as a refractory period. It is again of 2 categories. One is absolute refractory period, where no stimulus of any strength will lead to second action potential. Second phase is relative refractory period, in which if you increase the strength or the duration, it will show a second action potential. Okay. So this is again a property of action potential, in which for a particular period you cannot excite the excitable cell by giving a second stimulation. Now this is the classical. You can see we have shown here threshold level. So at this level only the channel will get open. So this stimulus where we are unable to generate an action potential, it is called as a subthreshold stimulus. So minimal intensity of a stimulating current needed to produce an action potential is called threshold intensity. It varies with the stimulus duration. So resting stage is a stage of resting membrane potential. Before the action potential begins, the membrane is said to be polarized. Depolarization stage. At this time, membrane suddenly becomes permeable to sodium ions, that is, fast sodium ions, allowing the tremendous number of positively charged sodium ions to diffuse to the interior of an axon. So here we are giving an example of axon, but in other cell, maybe a cardiac cell, another cell, there can be difference. There can be depolarization because of some other ion apart from sodium also. For example, in the retina, other different ions are involved. For other cells, smooth muscles, other ions are involved. But classically, positive ions are coming inside for depolarization. The normal polarized state of minus 90 millivolt is immediately neutralized by inflowing positively charged sodium ions with potential rising rapidly in positive direction, a process called as depolarization. Now after this, due to opening of fast opening of potassium channel, which will come out, and sodium ion channel stops, they closes. So there is a closure of sodium and there is opening of potassium channels. So from inside to outside, positive ions are going out. That's why polarity again comes back to the previous resting state. So it is called as a repolarization. And the potassium ion remains open for some period of time and it takes some time to close. So that's why negativity may go further down. So it is called as hyperpolarization due to slow closure of potassium ions. So here in this diagram we have seen this time in millisecond, and you can see activation of sodium channels. Here you can see they are activated and after that they get deactivated. But you can see the potassium channels, they are slow to activate. See the difference. Sodium is very fast, potassium is like this, and it is taking this much time to close. Okay, so this is regarding sodium and potassium. Due to this we are getting the difference in the depolarization, repolarization. Now here I have shown here from minus 70 millivolt, if you are giving a small current which will lead to only 5 millivolt, so it is local potential generated, but it is not enough to generate an action potential. Subsequently, so this all the responses in which we are unable to get a firing level, these are called as the local responses, or also called as electrotonic potential, in which membrane becomes sensitive, threshold level reduces, but not enough to generate an action potential. So these are called as the local response. These are classically seen in the smooth muscles in the Chiati, where they're letting the muscle ready for the firing once the firing level is reached. A weak stimulus needs a long duration and a strong stimulus sufficient at a short duration. The relation between the strength and the duration of a threshold stimulus is called strength duration curve. Slow rising current fails to induce action potential in the nerve because nerve undergoes adaptation. So due to adaptation, a slow rising current will not lead to generate action potential even if it is reaching the threshold level. And action potential is having classical property of all or none law. That means no action potential occurs if the stimulus is subthreshold. And action potential has a constant amplitude and form at any stimulus strength above the threshold also. Means even if you increase the strength of the current, the height of amplitude of action potential will not rise. So it is called as all or none law of an action potential. Here you can see these are the subthreshold stimulus, only electronic potential is generated, but once action potential is reached, the height will not increase further like this. So it is called as all or none law of an action potential. Refractory period, absolute, corresponding to the period from the time the firing level is reached until repolarization is 1/3 complete. So this is the period called as absolute refractory period. During the absolute refractory period, no stimulus, no matter how strong, will excite the nerve. And a relative refractory period lasting from this point to the start of after depolarization, a stronger stimulus can generate an action potential. So this is again a property of action potential. Now, if you just compare action potential in different cells of the body, this is classically action potential of short duration, rapid depolarization, rapid repolarization with a short refractory period. This is classically in neuron and skeletal muscle. On the contrary, you can see this is the smooth muscle where you can see it is going but not reaching back to the baseline. So slow like a wavy like potentials are generated in smooth muscle, and after that, and due to this, there is a regular contraction and peak of contractions comes in the smooth muscle. And here you can see in the cardiac muscle, it is not rapid like this. It is showing a plateau phase. That means it is having a long refractory period. So these are the different action potential in different cells of the body due to the difference in the ions and different in the channels which are opening and closing at the different rates. So here we are completing the discussion of action potential. This is the most basic. It is a way of communication of different cell. Action potential also called as language of CNS. The different cells communicate with each other through the action potentials only. So here we are completing action potential. Thank you.